You are listening to the Deadman's Tome podcast, a show that's been demonetized on YouTube because why? Because the content is too sexually gratifying. So instead of fighting it, because you might as well just embrace it. Instead of fighting it, let's just go ahead and make it. Just give them the content. There we have Jessica Biel from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, looking pretty hot right there. I hope you all enjoy that. If you're listening to this on the podcast feed, what can I tell you? It's Jessica Biel looking pretty hot. Dude, I realized she kind of has broad shoulders now I'm looking at her. But that's not that bad. Anyway, we got a guest tonight. J.E. Backstreet? Are you a Backstreet boy?
Man, every now and again, I do have a decent voice for it. You know, I mean, I practice it. I work with it. I've got the moves. I've got the swagger. Working on my moonwalk, but I can definitely do the worm if they're pretty enough.
Well, that's good. You have that talent. You can make that money. Make that boy band money.
And all I need to do is lose a little bit of belly fat, and I think I might make a few more coins in my cup. Yeah, not a bad idea.
That's good. But, so yeah, J.E. Bradstreet. That's me. Man, we'll get into what you do and all that. First, I got a quick announcement. Things in the Well publication has released a new book, Infected, Book 1 and Book 2. I do recommend them. I'm not even paid to say this. I actually stumbled upon this when Deadman's Tome was planning to release a coronavirus-themed anthology, but slow on the draw, kind of let things collect. I don't know, maybe I was drinking too much, smoking cigars, getting too relaxed on this podcast. I don't know. But I noticed, hey, they're being picked up by another place. And I checked them out. I'm not green with envy. If anything, I'm like, let me read the content, yo. Let me get an arc or something. I read it. I didn't even wait for them to send the arc. I went ahead and I purchased the book and I read it. I was like, I actually enjoy this. You can get one. You can get a copy on Amazon, paperback or ebook. There you go. And not even paid to say this. Look at that.
You were totally paid to say that.
I know. It makes it seem like I am. The only thing I'm paid to do on this show, because it's demonetized, I can't even send super chats, but you can send donations if you want to. I know money's tight right now. I know. But the only thing I'm paid to do is to drink. If people were to donate money, like $5, I would take a shot right then and there. Have to. And not water, but of whiskey or rum or something, whatever's at this table, at this desk. That's how I roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's right out there for you. $5 a shot, $1 to chug a beer. Let's get a Boilermaker in this guy's guts. Oh.
Right?
That's... Yeah, right out there, ladies and gentlemen. So you can donate. In the meantime, listen up for a bit. The gentleman did mention Jessica Biel, her sexiness in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake at the forthcoming of the show. Now, you actually just mentioned my favorite horror movie of all time, but that would be the original.
Oh, yeah, the original is much better. It's just the remake just has Jessica Biel, as a...
I mean, how can you go wrong until Justin Timberlake comes along to cock block?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He shouldn't be allowed in films. I don't know.
Black Snake Moan had its moments.
Oh, shit.
Right? And I've actually had lunch in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre house in Kingsland, Texas.
Nice. Did you bring your own meat, or did you take the house specialty?
I took the house specialty. They supplied, and I was like, all right, I'm willing to take the plunge, whatever they give me, whatever this meat is. It was delicious. It really was. A good old meaty burger is what I got in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, and it made me smile.
Oh, that is nice. It
was pretty cool.
Did it have an interesting taste?
Oh, nothing out of the ordinary that I can tell, but, Drayton Sawyer did win first place for his chili cook-offs for several years.
That's right, he did.
So, right, he seemed to have some sort of ingredient that might have mustered anything out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And up above in the upstairs of the original house, where they do now have a restaurant, I don't know how quarantine is going, but they did when I was there in 2016. Upstairs, they had a bar that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre themed, all homage to the original stuff, original photographs, I think some themed drinks, things like that. It was a really cool experience, Deadman.
That is pretty cool. Gotta check that out. Yeah, I wonder how they're doing with quarantine right now. You know, a lot of places are locked down. And you can only get takeout or drive, carry out. But anyway, hey, so for those who don't know who you are, J.E. Bradstreet, let's call you Backstreet again. Look at that. All right, who are you and what do you do?
I'm an author. I write horror fiction, but beyond that, it's actually the backlog that I am publishing at the moment. I have 10 books available, 5 books of sappy poetry, and 5 books of pure horror fiction. I'm actually putting out things that have been written for several decades, but don't worry, they are advanced upon, they're modernized, so that you should get a pretty decent experience out of it, depending, eye of the beholder, what kind of writing you enjoy. But I'm working my way into my current works. Not all of it is horror, but for the most part, it totally revolves around it because my life is a snowball of paranormal and horror experiences that I really like to elaborate on and incorporate in my writing. I want it to be fun. That's the stuff that gets my juices flowing, is the paranormal, horror, and all sorts of creepy, dark shit that some people love and some people try to avoid.
Oh, that's pretty cool. We'll get into that, your love for the creepy, dark stuff. But so we're talking about a back catalog. So these are stories or books that you've written before that have just been sitting there, but you've reworked them a little bit, dust them off, touched them up here and there, new fresh coat of paint, so to speak, and you put it back out.
Exactly.
You put it out. Okay.
That's the truth. It was things that I should have been submitting to competitions years ago because I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I've been creating books and writing, and when it came to the ones that actually might be decent to reveal to the world and maybe get an audience of some sort, that's the ones that I have focused on. But yes, they are years, if not decades old.
Okay. That's kind of cool that you've done that. I mean, and that's something that happens, authors will put out like a short story collection where they have stories that have been sitting on for a while, and I'll dust them off and finally put them out there. One reason why I reached out to you is because I noticed that you weren't just publishing, you weren't just writing and publishing, it looked like you were setting up your own brand, and I respect that. I respect the amount of work that takes. How has that, or first, why, and how has it been doing for you?
Well, I appreciate that, Deadman, because yes, the Jeb Empire's brand is definitely starting to thrive. It's blossoming as of now, after years of being on layaway, because now is the time to really make it happen. As someone who is a writer, like you said, you've got those old stories that are, for the most part, with the writing heart, these stories haunt you over the years. And it eventually comes to a point where you just have to let them out. You've got to give them to the world. If the world hasn't experienced anything like it yet, and they haven't read something that is similar or whatnot, you just got to do it and put it out there. And I made the leap and decided, you know what, I'm not going to hold this back anymore. It's got to happen.
Right.
And so with Jeb Empires, it's not only book writing. I also travel the world to different paranormal locations and things of that nature. Some places that have famous lore, some that are a little less known. I have a very vast fascination with things, ghost towns, wax museums, railroads. I mean, it just goes on and on. So once you actually have these stories that are written, they have to go out to an audience at some point. And so I figured, these are older stories. I'll focus on the newer stuff, maybe submitting to competitions, things of that nature. But for the meantime, I just want these people to have that experience, to be able to read the books and to know that it's out there and that I did it. And so the Jeb Empire's brand is actually a combination of books and media such as videos, and it's also travel to paranormal locations. It is building, and it has been building for years, and it will continue to build. We just have to adapt through quarantine. Oh boy, hence the drinks we have right now, Mr. Deadman.
Right. I have the Corona flowing right now, actually. So literally, Corona Extra.
Oh, yeah. Does it have some lime in it? Perhaps
yeah, it does. It does.
With a squirt of hand wipe?
Well, yeah, you got to put some Lysol on there. Wait, are you supposed to drink bleach or not drink bleach? I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore.
We're not supposed to drink it, but we're supposed to inject it.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure I do that too.
It works a lot better that way.
But
much more effective.
Yeah, so you have multimedia going on here. You have not just books, but you have videos. When you go out to these paranormal locations, are you like live streaming too?
I only live streamed once, and that was from the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast. I actually owe a book to Richard St. Clair, a gentleman who runs Empathic Paranormal here in the Silver State, because he guessed where I was during my only live stream that I did. I should probably do more live streams, and I should have, of course, with the different locations that I have done. But the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast, he guessed where I was, and I promised him the book, my Shadow Travels book.
Oh,
it's paranormal. When I go to these, I'm sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, that's pretty cool that he did that. I mean, it just like a contest, just a giveaway. Hey, if you guess where I'm at, you get a free thing.
Right. And in the meantime, it was originally Shadow Travels. I intended to do one full compilation of all the different places I've been. But then it turned out to be literally hundreds of different bizarre or haunted locations. Mm-hmm. And I've decided Shadow Travels is going to be a series of books.
Now, with this Jeb Empire, since there's multiple stuff going out, you have books, you have videos and all that. What seems to be doing well? Is it the book side? Is it the video side?
Actually, a combination of both. I get very good reactions when people see that I'm traveling, when people see that I'm going to locations that either they have heard about before and had some sort of paranormal fascination with, and then there's the different locations where they're like, wow, I haven't heard of this before, and thank you for showing me this. A lot of people give me thanks when they see the videos and the pictures that I post, primarily to Facebook. On my profile, you can look up J.E. Bradstreet for Facebook, and I get very good reactions from people who see me traveling. And then at the same time, they notice that I'm also a writer. And so they look into my books of fiction, and they kind of see that I'm a conglomerate of all sorts of different madness, and they kind of seem to appreciate it. They both seem to do very well.
Gotcha. Okay. In fact, let's go and talk about one of your books real fast. One I kind of skimmed through a little bit, House and He. And I noticed that was very well received, sitting at 5 stars of 13 reviews. Tell me a little bit about that.
The House and He is about a man who is under the influence of a cursed piece of property. And so the house is the only thing that he wants. He was once a very articulate and compassionate person. He bought the house so that he and his pregnant wife could raise a family there without knowing what the house was capable of. And so he lost his wife, he lost the child in her womb, and he has lost his mind, only to be replaced by what the house wants him to feel and to be. He has become an entity of anger and rage. And unfortunately, he gets some unwitting visitors to this house that is totally haunted and cursed. And he does the bidding of the house with his muscle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
His name is Larry Shawrus. He doesn't need to eat or sleep. All he needs is the house and its evil energy.
That's pretty sinister. I like that. Kind of reminds me of a film I watched last night. Night of the Demons. Have you ever seen that?
Is that with Billy Zane?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, the not the Bordello, but it's Tales from the Crypt is Night of the Demons.
Mm-hmm. Night of the Demons.
Is that the right movie? Hell yeah. If that's the right one. It's been a few years, but I would remember being very impressed with Billy Zane's performance in that.
Yeah, in that movie, the house is possessed. Of course, it happens. You see that a lot in various horror movies, but it's the house that's possessed. So the house takes them over one at a time. It's the evil entity. But anyway, whoa! What was that? Are you haunted right now? Are you okay?
Oh, I'm always haunted. None of them ever leave me in peace so that I can just have a discussion. They either have to rev their energies up or come to give some sort of wordage that I'm just like, all right, leave a guy alone. They might be getting closer. At any random moment, you're going to hear some sort of bizarre buzzing. It's always haunted around here, brother.
Okay. Well, damn, man. You gotta stay safe. Gotta stay safe. So, all right. I always ask my guests to give me a little tease. Give us a little tease. What is some demented stuff that happens in the House of He? Like how bad has this guy lost his mind?
So I would predict, if I were to tap into the future, if anyone were to ever be able to take out Larry Sharis, the man who is owned by the house, he would probably turn to either bones or dust. Like I said before, he doesn't need to eat or sleep. He literally feeds off of the house's energy. So a little bit of a teaser. One gentleman has a broken down car, and that's the closest house that he can go to seek shelter. Some other people are just looking at ghost towns and really old towns and old buildings, and they end up in that place as well. And neither one of them turn out well because Larry Sharis is on his rage game. Okay. Even though he would turn to bones or dust if he were ever to be really taken out by somebody, in the meantime, that dude is packed with muscle and energy that feeds him to be able to annihilate anyone. Originally, he won a wood chopping contest back when he was a decent guy with his new woman and everything, and he wasn't influenced by the house. He was very good with an axe.
Oh, that's a good skill to have. That's something that the house is looking for, right?
It is. It almost seemed like it chose the perfect person, and it could see the perfect person when he moved in.
So wait. Hypothetically, let's say a house full of betas, or, a house full of weaklings moved in. Would the house just kill them all?
I'm sure it would drive them somewhat dementedly. If they're a bunch of betas, they're going to run from a house like that because not only do you have Larry Sharis going nuts in the physical form, people witness stuff in the house throughout the story.
See, I was going even before they came to the house. Like, so the family moved in. He lost his wife, lost his unborn child, and he becomes pretty much possessed by the house. But what if he didn't meet the criteria? What if he wasn't good with an axe? Would the house just get rid of him?
I'd imagine it would totally drive them out because this house is built on a graveyard that replaced a Native American graveyard. So we're talking about a graveyard over a graveyard and then a house built on top of it.
That's pretty cool.
So this is kind of the source of why this house, this particular four walls, so to speak, is really active with activity because it's been charged with death for several centuries.
Now, and that's a kind of a running, I guess, theory or hypothesis that the places that have a lot of deaths, like graveyards, whatever, they would have a lot of activity. Is that something that you've seen with your paranormal? What do you call it? Research or investigation? Like, what would you call it?
I would call it research and actually investigation as well. Primarily, I like to research. As far as investigating goes, I like to do things solo, but I'm not going to tamper with something that's going to really affect me too terribly bad. If I'm going to tamper, like asking questions and really try to draw out spirits, I do want to have people with me. And I have attended lots of different meetings with paranormal investigators, different paranormal investigators at a lot of different haunted locations, from the USS Hornet to all sorts of places down in Long Beach. That's California. So in general, me, myself, I don't want to tamper with something while I'm by myself. I have enough demons to deal with. Now, I will become a paranormal investigator, and it's been very successful when other people are around. I will research and actually ask questions, maybe dive into a little bit of Ouija with other people.
Okay. So with your experience, have you gone to places where a lot of death has happened, like a graveyard or what have you?
All of the above. Yeah, all of the above.
Have you
seen graveyards to battleships? And yes, I've seen a lot of weird stuff. I was by myself in Gettysburg, where out of my peripheral vision, I did see a gray coat duck into the forest. Just as one example. In the Washout Club, where Ghost Adventures actually started their sort of famous, still going, running TV series, the Washout Club in Virginia City, Nevada, is probably the place where I've seen most of the strange occurrences that have taken place. I've seen all sorts of stuff up there.
Oh, okay. So there is something to that with graveyards having some activity. Yeah,
and one of the graveyards that I went to, I believe it was close to Monroe, Connecticut. Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are famous demonologists. Some people claim they're hoaxers. Some totally are with their work. It all depends on what you've researched and where you come from. But I've been to that graveyard, which they claimed was one of the most haunted in the world. Also on Halloween night, I did the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery by lantern light with a group. So I've been to plenty of graveyards. Yeah. Okay.
Now, what would you say to those that have been to cemeteries, maybe they live next to a cemetery, and they haven't seen any activity whatsoever?
It's all usually, it's kind of bizarre as far as sometimes you'll see things in broad daylight. Sometimes nobody will see anything. A lot of people who don't want to see things have seen things out of randomly, and it's made them believers when they were non-believers before. And then, of course, other people that don't really care either way, they never see anything, and they find cemeteries to be very peaceful places.
Right.
So,
even as like hangout places, you might bring it there. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I was actually going to go there. Yeah, some people who's going to go in a cemetery late at night? I mean, you and your lady are. Mm-hmm.
Might be if she's into that sort of thing. And
right.
And that happens. There are plenty of ladies out there that are into that sort of thing.
No, they're all innocent angels.
Well, they're innocent, all right. I don't know about angels. Okay. But, all right. Let's... I'm going to table the paranormal stuff for a little bit, and because we'll go deeper into that and cryptids later on. But first, let's not ignore this part. Why horror? Why this dark, creepy stuff? Did something happen to you as a child? I mean, I know something happened to me. No, don't just mess with you. But why?
So, a couple of things here. First, I'll dab into the why horror. First of all, a lot of people seem to look at it as something that is, it's supposed to give you chills, it's supposed to give you a thrill, and then you're safe. You go to the theater, you watch a horror movie, but you're safe. You're in a confined area, unless you're in Scream 2, of course. But So they have this ideology. They just want to thrill, a little bit of weird sort of darkness, which everybody is infatuated with darkness. First of all, there's, serial killers and all that subject that just gets people going, what the hell? Why would you do that? It's very fascinating. But what I think people have wrong is that they think horror is just for the sake of that thrill, and then you go home to your teddy bears and your women, you sleep good at night, you got your thrill. Mm-hmm. But reality is horror should prepare you for, we live in a cold world, do we not?
I would say so.
I would think so.
Cold and different.
Right. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of weirdos out there. You've got Marshall Applewhites and Charles Mansons walking around all the time. Just because they haven't hit the mainstream media doesn't mean they aren't out there walking among us. Horror should prepare you. It should not give you, like, you've got the protagonists in the movies that are always screaming and running. No, horror should prepare you to take on that person with the same weapon that they're coming at you with. You know what I mean? So you've got horror in the world. We live in a cold world. You should be ready. You don't have to be paranoid, although they want to say it's paranoid or whatever. You should be aware and ready that there's possibly something out there that could come at you. You should enjoy your life, but if something really bad does come at you, you should be ready for that surprise and ready to fight back. So that's my view on horror in general. Now, the reason that me myself is so caught up in it, my very first memory is a paranormal experience. Now, I was in my room, and this will be in the Shadow Travels books coming out. I don't usually give this out too much, but I'm going to give this to Mr. Deadman because he's a badass, and we're drinking together.
Thank you.
So,
and by the way, while you tell this story, I'll go ahead and take a shot on the house and stuff.
All right, I'm going to light my cigarette. All right. What are you drinking tonight, by the way?
I'm taking a shot of Maker's Mark right now.
Oh, you love that Maker's Mark. Hell yeah.
Right. Here we go.
My first memory is laying in bed. It's a dark room, and the foot of my bed is facing the closet. Now, I know this is not a dream because I was very aware of what was going on around me. And while I was laying in bed, 3 shadow figures, pure black, like darker than the shadows that were already in the room.
That's weird. That's weird because Bill Clinton and Joe Biden aren't black, and I'm pretty sure they're the ones who came out of your closet. Is that what I'm getting?
Well,
I'm just joking. I'm just messing with you.
No, they weren't sniffing me either, so I know it wasn't Joe Biden. They didn't get that close. They got to the foot of the bed, and they weren't Monica Lewinskying me, but they were trying to tempt me.
Oh.
And what they were trying to tempt me to do was open my eyes and let them know that I was awake. But I know it wasn't a dream because I was squinting my eyes to make them think that I was asleep. So I would open them just enough so that I could see them and what they were doing while they levitated the foot of my bed. I felt the blood go to my head. I felt the bed levitate, and I was at an incline while they were trying to wake me up. But I knew somehow that if they knew that I knew that they knew, that I was awake, something bad was going to happen. And so I just kept squinting my eyes while looking at these 3 shadow figures levitating the foot of my bed and then putting it back down because they weren't getting the reaction that they wanted to get. Just like Joe Biden gets little girls running away from him while he tries to sniff them and grope them.
I know. I've seen the videos. I've seen the images. They don't really run away. They can't get away from them fast enough.
They try to. Yeah, they sure as hell try to. And then everyone around them seems oblivious. Right? Okay.
That's so weird. It's so weird. So these guys, these entities, and did you ever get a better look? Are they just these shadow figures?
Just shadow figures, man. Straight up shadow figures. I don't know how familiar you are with the shadow figures entities, but that's what they are. They look like the shape of humans that are completely shadowed. It's like Noob Saibot in Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
That's exactly what it looks like. The original Mortal Kombat is what they look like. Just the shape of humans in the form of a very dark shadow.
Shadow people, and that's a topic that comes up quite a bit on this podcast, on this show. Shadow people, serial killers, things like that comes up quite a bit.
It's kind of weird too. A lot of people have that just shadow people experience. And I mean, I'm going to vouch for it. I saw it at the Washout Club and throughout in the house that built me, the same house where I'm describing this incident. You could still see in your peripheral vision, they move like lightning, man. They'll go one way through the hallway. It's a shadow person, the shape of a person completely shadowed out. And then a little while later, they'll go right back the other direction and they move quick as shit.
Is it weird, though, that meth heads also see shadow people? Is that something? Because I noticed that, too. Well, not that... Might have to explain why I talk to a lot of meth heads, but
you do, don't you? You're like, yo, hey, I see you. What's up, man? Talk to me.
No. But no, seriously. But that's a thing that you hear about. That meth heads will be like, they see shadow people and stuff like that. Does that negate the theory, or is that just more evidence? Because that's kind of weird, right? It's like they're on drugs and they say they see them.
I consider it more evidence because there's a few things to look at here. So when you're lacking sleep, especially if you're a meth head, you're lacking sleep for days. Yeah. There's certain studies and stuff. That bizarre Russian experiment that I can't quite remember the name of. But if you go without sleep for long enough time, you will die, just like you go without water. Now, moving on just from methamphetamine, I've had a friend tell me about how he was on mushrooms. Okay, so mushrooms are poison, right? That's how you get a lot of those weird effects. It poisons your body, and so it moves you into another realm of sort of trance. You're kind of closer to death, okay? It's the same thing with someone who works night shift and never really gets enough sleep. Meth heads don't get enough sleep. You take mushrooms and you're poisoned. All of these people are kind of closer to the other realm that we don't see. Now, this friend of mine described to me that him and his friend were tripping out on mushrooms in one room, and both of them saw the same shadow cross the ceiling. It was from the wall to the ceiling, and then it vanished. And both of them saw it at the same time.
Oh, shit. They both saw it.
They both saw it. And so my theory on a lot of it, once again, with mushrooms, I mean, you're poisoned. That's kind of a deathly thing. You don't just poison yourself for shits and giggles. Poison is death, right? So all of these people that, especially methamphetamine people, if you go without sleep forever, you're going to be kind of close to death. So a lot of these different drugs will put you on the different level. Like you've mentioned the Joe Rogan experience several times. He loves his DMT. You can blast off into other planes
too. He loves his shrooms.
Right. So as far as paranormal goes and shadow people and stuff like that, I mean, you're putting yourself closer to deprivation, closer to death. It's the other realm that you don't see. It's just like how you have those medical patients that say, wow, my dead relative was talking to me the other day. And then they're dead a few days later. I've had that a few times too. These things put you closer to death. So yeah, you're a lot more likely to actually see and witness those sort of things, Mr. Deadman.
Okay. And to go back to your story here. So you saw these shadow people. They wanted to mess with you, but because you didn't wake up, they were like, we're just gonna let you go.
I remember, that is what I vaguely remember, and then them just kind of being gone like it was a regular night. Of course, I mean, I'm talking very young, maybe somewhere between 3 to 5 years old, but I remember this very vividly. And so That is what I remember. As far as them making their exit, I can't really be candid on that.
So did it ever happen again?
Yes, it happened several times. And of course, this once again is in the house that built me, which was more than just the shadow people running through the hallway. It was more than the shadow people levitating the foot of my bed from my closet. It was also different visuals of things moving around that shouldn't have been moving. I once saw this like band. It was, you know how you have a high school or some sort of parade where you have one person conducting drummers and then the flute players, and it kind of goes in waves of these different instrument players. I saw that in translucent. You could see right through them. And they moved down my hallway from the conductor to the drum players to the flute players, and then they just kind of vanished. They moved down my hallway.
You had a whole high school band in shadow form at your house.
And I didn't even have one of the hot band chicks strip for me. Can you believe that shit?
Ah, damn. No flag girls? Well, the flag girls aren't really the hot ones.
Well, granted, I was hella young at the time, so I wouldn't have even known what to do with them anyway.
Yeah. But the band chicks were a little crazy. They would do things with the flutes. They would do things.
This one time at band camp?
Right?
Yeah, I saw a lot of weird shit in the house that built me, man. And a lot of weird shit beyond. But then, of course, in later years, I started seeking it out. I did mention the Washout Club earlier. Now, if we want to talk about physical things, of course, we always got our non-believers or whatnot. I always have been very well protected. I just feel it. It's sort of an essence about me. I'm well protected. But at the Washout Club, I got my first little physical attack, and that was a good time.
Let's move into that. Let's go deeper into the paranormal stuff. What is this physical thing you're talking about?
So, in my experience, it's been we'll say three different ones. I'll start with the first one because that's the first one I was really aware of, and that was at the Washout Club in Virginia City, Nevada. Now, on the third floor, they do have a story of a guy up there who committed suicide, and his ghost haunts the place, whatever. A lot of people have a history of being slapped or some sort of bizarre experience up there where people get kind of fucked up for a minute. So I'm up there on my first tour ever. They're talking about the suicide man, and suddenly I feel something that feels like just a fingertip on the pit of my arm, right above my forearm. And I don't know what it is. I didn't pay much mind to it. I'm not the type of person like the rest of them that go, oh my God, something brushed my hair. It's all about consistency. It's about truth in this field. Right. So I didn't make a big deal about it.
Okay.
And I felt this fingertip in the pit of my arm. Next thing I know, for the next few hours, this develops into a burning. It starts out when you like fall asleep on your arm or your hand and it feels like it's numb and it's gone to sleep. Well, this thing started with that, and then it just developed into this burning tingle that lasted the rest of the night until I woke up the next day.
This ghost gave you a burning tingle in the pit of your arm?
It was a burning tingle, and luckily it was only the pit of my arm, as opposed to, other places where things can give you burning tingles.
Right. It makes me wonder what he touched you with. That would even be
well, the story, too, which later on went on, like they were theorizing that maybe the tour guides were speaking of a story that wasn't true and the ghost was pissed off about it. But the original theory was that this person may have been a heroin user putting a needle in his arm.
So he was trying to shoot you up.
Oh boy, and he sure did too. That shit hurt, man.
Oh,
for the whole rest of the night, a burning tingle that developed after like a numbness in the arm. That shit hurt.
I mean, did you feel like, I've never been on heroin before, but did you feel lethargic? Did you feel like that?
Not at all. It was all normal. Everything was normal except for this unexplainable pain in my arm.
So damn it.
Because Right. I didn't even get the hi-hoo with the whole situation.
Didn't get the euphoria, whatever you're supposed to get with it. Okay.
Damn. Yeah, not even a little bit. It's like, ow, okay, make it stop. It's not stopping. Ow, okay. And so I mentioned that was my first one. Now my second one.
The second one. All right.
It was actually somewhat worse in its own regard. Now, I'm at the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California.
Okay.
Now, the Queen Mary has a major history of paranormal. A lot of paranormal enthusiasts probably know the name pretty well. So in general, the swimming pool, which is supposed to be the main hotspot for the whole ship, was actually locked up at the time for renovations and stuff. I couldn't get in. It was upsetting me. So I spent most of the night drinking and trying to get in to the swimming pool, but I couldn't. Now, where I felt this attachment was in the propeller room. Anybody who's familiar with the Queen Mary will probably know what the propeller room is. You go into this very dark room, you look down, and there's water where this propeller was. Okay. Now, the Queen Mary once collided with another ship, and one of the rumors that I heard was this propeller might have eaten up some of the sailors who accidentally ran through the other ship. But all I really know was I stepped from this nice, pleasant museum into the side room because I'm always exploring. And next thing I know, I'm in this dark room with water down below, and you can see the propeller. They've got pennies down there and dollar bills for people that might want to make a wish. I don't know what the fuck they were doing. All I know is this
the wrong spirits, man.
Right? They're just like, okay, here you go. And then the spirits are like, okay, yeah, here we go, motherfucker. So that's where I felt this just overwhelming sense of dread. Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty protected. I'm pretty okay. I'm not afraid of a lot of things at all. But I went into this room not knowing what it was, what to expect. And suddenly I get this overwhelming feeling of horror and dread, like something bad. So anyway, I spend the rest of the night trying to get into the swimming pool, drinking. I go back to my cabin.
Okay.
And I lay down on the couch because I'm ready to pass out. I wake up maybe an hour or so later, and there's a utter coldness running through me. Oh, shit. We're not talking about a coldness from the outside in. This was coming from the inside out. Like something had gotten into my core and was using all of my heat to just suck it from me. Like Monica Lewinsky just sucking off Slick Willie, man. I mean, we're talking
inside
pain.
Out. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, like cold inside out.
Right, and neither had I. None of this made sense to me.
You mean like a certain cold where, like, no matter how many jackets or blankets you put on you, it's like you never warm up because it's like within you.
You just nailed it. The only thing that saved me from this coldness was that I went in with the lady that I was bunking with at the time, and she could feel it too. She wrapped herself around me, and she's like, "What the hell is going on?"
How long was this from the moment when you got shot up by the ghost?
That would have been years.
Okay.
So
it sounded like withdrawals. It sounded like withdrawals, but. Just wanted to make sure you're okay.
It could have been a part of it. I mean, you have flashbacks later on, just like the acid flashbacks. So, I mean, it could have been.
Could have been.
The Washout Club was 2012. The Queen Mary incident was 2017. So, I mean, we're talking about a half a decade difference. I might have been going through some withdrawals, a little bit of pokey withdrawals.
Maybe. See, whenever I hear these paranormal stories, it's like I am a little bit green with envy because it's like I've never really experienced that. And I've tried numerous times on the show live, though. Maybe I did it in a more shock jock fashion. Maybe that's why it didn't work. To try to provoke spirits and demons and stuff. And it just never happened. So... I mean,
all of mine, I gotta say, man, it happened when I didn't expect it. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Not all of mine though. I've gotten EVPs, lots of different EVPs while you're trying to talk to people at different locations and stuff. But as far as, I guess, a physical experience, all of these were completely unexpected.
So when you experience these things, I'm guessing, well, it feeds into your writing. You write about it, but do you tell other people, and how do they react to it? Do they think you're going crazy?
I usually only confide this information in the people that know me well. And the people that know me well know that I am not someone that wants to be a drama queen that's full of shit. I think if we're going to have truth in this field and truth of understanding of other realms and different possibilities and strange things that go on that we just can't see, that are still coagulating in the same world that we live in, we have to have truth. That's what bothers me with the different people that's like, yeah, dude, I saw Mothman. Or, yeah, I saw the Jersey Devil, and they're just trying to tell a story to, like, get attention, get a rise. That's unacceptable. What's the point in that? There's no point.
Sticking with ghosts for at this moment, or do you call them ghosts, or they're more like specters or entities? I mean, what is it?
It kind of seems all of the above. I mean, we're all sort of an entity in our own right? We have power, we have energy that we can deliver somewhere. That's kind of an entity, you know? I guess if you see a full body apparition, that's a ghost.
Okay.
If
if I saw that, if I saw a full body apparition, I would be like fully convinced 100%. If someone shows me orbs, I'm like, dude, that's just orbs. If that's what we're worried about, then I'm not even worried. I'm not. But if I see a full body thing, if I see something move, if I feel something, if I see a shadow person that other people saw, that would be a game changer for me, for real. And I think
so. With your experience, then, you've actually tried to dabble into this a lot just to get the experience to be like, yo, convince me, I want to see some shit. You've tried this quite a bit, huh, Deadman?
Quite a bit throughout my life, yeah. Throughout my life. And so when people like that, I'm sure you experienced before as well, how come they don't really see it? Is there something going on there, something that's stopping them from seeing it?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Everything, just like the ghost itself, it's all an individual experience. You'll have ghosts that are just repeating the same thing over and over, and then you'll have ghosts that are intelligent life forms that will respond to you and move things. You'll have noises in a weird location that sounds like a whole display of china crashing in a room, and then you'll go to the room and nothing's wrong. So each entity, each experience, just like the human experience, is very different. Now, if someone is not experiencing things, then maybe they have some sort of a guardian blocking them from harmful experience, while you have other people that are like, yeah, I grew up talking to dead people. I still do. So it's all an individual experience, which kind of keeps it unexplainable.
Now you're kind of reminding me of one of my exes. That she was like, one time we're messing around with the Ouija board or whatever, and she was like, "You have a guardian." What? A guardian spirit? You know that you got two of them. I'm like, oh, okay, oh, okay. I believed her then though. I believed her. I mean, we were both naked, playing around with the Ouija board. Of course, I was going to believe whatever she said.
Well, I'm glad that I remind you of that experience, sir. Huh.
But that, of course, our relationship ended, and half the stuff she told me, I was like, well, it's probably crap.
Oh no. There's always a catch. And that's the other point, too. It's hard to tell when you have these people around you that you're immediately... you want to believe them, or then there's the other ones that you immediately know. You're like, damn, you're full of it.
How do you know if someone's telling the truth or not about their experiences? They say, I've seen something, I felt something. How do you know they're not bullshitting you?
unfortunately, with everything, just as we've discussed kind of in politics, which we won't get too much into, you never know offhand, but always the future will lead to the truth. So you got to fucking wait for it. And that sucks.
Yeah.
You always got to wait, but usually the colors come out in the end. Hopefully they come out for the truth that they are. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime and the initial experience, it seems like you just kind of got to take them for their word and hope that they're not a bunch of ass wipes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the most haunted place you've been to?
The Washout Club in Virginia City.
Okay.
And I'll say that only because I've spent the most time there. I've been to Auschwitz. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You sent me an image of that.
Right. I've been to Auschwitz. So a lot of people would say, I don't think any paranormal investigators are allowed there, or they feel it's kind of a respect thing not to investigate there, which understandably so for the most part, depending on where your mind state comes from. But
I'm surprised. I mean, there would have to be activity there.
I don't see how there couldn't be, because we talk about individual experiences. Now, even I documented it on my trip there. I was talking about in my video, dude, some of these people were writers. Some of them were philosophers. Some of them were great at mathematics. And all they did was wait in their last moments naked in the forest to go to the gas chambers. Mm-hmm. So once again, we talk about their individual experience. Some of them might have the energy to linger behind. Some of them accepted it and passed it on. So yeah, there's got to be something over there.
Unless the Nazis are so evil that they killed the spirit, they killed the soul. I don't know. I mean,
you're onto something major. The Nazis and Hitler were into some major genius occult stuff, from astrology to UFOs.
That is true. There's truth to that. Hitler was obsessed with the occult. He would send out the SS or special teams out to go investigate things.
Yeah,
just
kind of like it's honestly what our government and all the governments do now. They dab into all that stuff, the power of the mind, the sleep deprivation, the ghostly aspects. You just don't hear about it, because why should they? The masses are nuts.
Or you hear about it way, way, way later, after it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. Wait, you mean there was a time that the government would purposely drug people for experiments?
And then while it was happening, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. How could you say that? Why would our government do that to us while it's happening? And then later on, it's like, yeah, this was confidential, but here it's released. Mm-hmm. And still they're like, Yep, you're damn right, Mr. Deadman.
It also kind of reminds me of how like you'd hear people they'll be dismissed as crazy loons. Oh, the government's spying on us. The government's spying on us. They're spying on everything we do. And you hear about, oh yeah, we have the ability to listen to just about everything you do. I mean, the Patriot Act since, we're going to listen to everything you do if we need to. It's like, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And from my home state, the Beehive State in Utah, they set up a place. I wish I could get into more details, but the particular ones kind of evade me, so I don't want to talk out my ass. But They kind of built a super base. They built a super base that is storing all the information. Sure, maybe they're not listening to your phone call right now, depending on the keywords, or they're not looking at your text messages right now, but they have built this building where they can store all of it and go right back and look at it.
That's a lot of stuff to store. And there's a lot of bullshit conversations just on the daily, by the hour. I mean, it seems you need some heavy duty archive or some heavy duty way to screen that stuff. Otherwise, you're just storing a bunch of junk.
That's why it's a whole building. I'm sure the government people are just as annoyed with the everyday masses as we are.
Right.
And they're like, this person's conversation sucks. Oh, but she sent him some nudes. Let's check that out. Damn right.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. I would believe that. I would believe that. What about cryptids? You seem to be fascinated with cryptids, and I love this stuff because you're no longer talking about paranormal stuff or like like spirits, but you're talking about like creatures, things that could exist.
Physical creatures that could fuck you up in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. What's cool is that a lot of them kind of associate in the same way. You've got the paranormal mixing with the cryptids, which kind of gets me off. Mothman is my favorite. So I went down into Point Pleasant in 2016 just to get a better look at the area. Primarily, not a lot of places make me uneasy off key, especially if it's a little town or something like that. The whole area made me just kind of queasy. Maybe it's my mind telling me because I knew the history, but Mothman incorporates all sorts of different aspects, from UFOs to contact with UFOs to Men in Black to the full winged creature that was witnessed by several different like rednecks that passed lie detector tests that said they saw this fucking thing, you know? So Mothman is definitely my favorite. I went down into Point Pleasant. Are you pretty familiar with Mothman, Deadman?
Mothman has been brought up several times on the show. I'm aware of the history, kind of, sort of, but you're going to have to remind me. As I understand, what was it, like in the 60s or 70s, someone said they spotted it, or dates back before that as well? Like, I think World War II, right?
You nailed it. It was the 60s where the initial sightings of this 7-foot-tall thing that had 2 glowing red eyes embedded in the chest. And the chest didn't seem to have a head. It just kind of sprouted these feathery wings.
Right.
The wings, when it flew, the wings didn't flap. It just kind of hovered. Like, that's some alien shit. That's not like a bird trying to follow your car. The wings didn't even flap. It just hovered and followed the car at, they said, about 100 miles per hour when they tried to get away from this thing. But either way, it's 7 foot tall. It's kind of creepy, just like Bigfoot. I mean, that's a big bad boy that you probably don't want to arm wrestle with.
Right. And it was a couple. There was a couple sightings around the same time, though. Wasn't there like a couple that saw it, and then I think some guys were trying to rob a grave, and they saw it, and then they were actually grave diggers. The first sighting came from people that were digging the grave, and I think the Mothman was perched on a church, or it was floating around, and they saw this thing while they were digging the grave. So the next sighting... Do we know whose grave they were digging?
No, actually I don't.
I wonder if there's a connection there. Because the number of times I've heard this story, I've never really thought, well, what grave were they digging into? Because...
You know, that'd be an interesting thing to find out. As far as I know, they were just preparing for the next funeral. Just your everyday grave diggers, but you may have just tapped onto something that everybody's overlooked.
You know, you say grave digger, I'm thinking grave robber. I'm still thinking grave digger. They could have just preparing a grave. But
that's what they were doing, yeah.
Damn.
We can get on to grave robbers, too. I mean, that's interesting. You got old Ed Gein out there. Oh, yeah, that's a good time, but I guess we're sticking to cryptids right now, huh?
Well, for now. This show used to be a lot longer. It used to be like, back in the day, this show used to be like 3 hours. Toned it down to an hour and a half. Then now it's just an hour. But we're going to go a little bit over, because we got plenty to talk about. Let's go deeper in cryptids. Like the Mothman. Do you think he's real?
Well, of course, I haven't seen it for myself, and as someone who wants the truth at all costs, I can't say yay or nay. I've never seen anything like the Mothman, but the other incident after the gravediggers was, you were close to it. It wasn't just one couple. I believe it was 2 couples in the same car that had gone out to the TNT area, and you were also close with it as World War II that you had mentioned, because this area, it's called the TNT plant. It was used for like storage of different things, might have been dynamite. They have these kind of old bunkers out there on the outskirts of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is where all this stuff takes place. And so the bunkers were abandoned, they were emptied out, and it was used as kind of a makeout spot for the 50s and 60s little teeny boppers, you know how that goes. So instead of taking their ice cream sundaes out there, they took each other out there. It was two couples in the same
for a
car.
Banana Split or something, yeah. And then the Mothman would be like spying on them.
He apparently rose up from the road in the headlights, and I went to this road. Now, this place is out in I don't know if it's the Appalachians, I want to say, but it sure is a wooded area. And you've got the little town that's down by the river, but you go into the outskirts toward the TNT plant, and where Mothman was sighted several different times by several different people. But this particular incident had the two couples, and as the headlights of their car drove over the road, Mothman just kind of rose up and looked at them. And it freaked them all out, and so they took off toward town, and apparently that's when Mothman, with his non-flapping wings, hovered over the car and kept speed with them until they reached close to town, where it disappeared. So we're talking about a cryptid that is very large and very weird looking, and that could keep some pace.
Right. And it seems to be like when you see the Mothman, from what I understand, the legend is that it's like a omen of some sort. Man, I wonder
You're right.
I wonder what happened with this couple. Did they have some
sort
of
the
weird
couple
fate? Did something happen to them later on? And we all die. It can't just be death. But like, well, what? Man, so many questions.
Down there in Point Pleasant, they have the Mothman Museum, and they have the official police reports of these couples who saw what they saw, the written reports. They have video reels, you know, those old cool reels that you got to put in a projector to watch it and stuff like that. They have the original police tapes and things. And I don't remember if it was these particular couples, but some of these people, I believe, passed lie detector tests saying that they saw what they saw. And this is after UFO activity in the area. People were seeing things on the skyline, which leads to a lot of people thinking Mothman may be UFO related. And after that, you've got the Men in Black coming into town. Mysterious guys in black Cadillacs with no license plates, in black suits and hats. And some of them have weird skin that kind of look alien, while they threaten people and tell them to keep quiet about what they've seen.
Oh, shit.
Point Pleasant is nothing to fuck with.
What do you do when that happens? Keep quiet. No, man. First Amendment,
so
bro. I'm gonna.
I've heard a theory that my guy, I've often done a podcast called the Herman Mudgett Experiment, where I talk with my guy, Mr. E, and he described at some point that he had heard that Men in Black go crazy about like Jello. If you offer them Jello or give them Jello, I don't remember the specifics, but they just freak out about Jello. How weird is that?
Now, this Men in Black, this occurrence here, I mean, it is, that's also documented, right?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. Man, I'm so curious. I'm so curious. Like, yeah, what else could he say?
I'm going to have to send you a link to my Point Pleasant visit. It's got photos of the museum that has Men in Black documents as well as figurines. And this was before that I started to take video of my adventures. I wish I was taking video then, but this unfortunately was all photographs. I'm going to send you that link to look at.
Okay.
And one of the women, she was a reporter. Her name evades me, and I don't want to speak out of tongue, but she was heavily down in Point Pleasant trying to bring awareness to what was going on, and she was writing about it in the newspapers, and I believe she was threatened several times by the Men in Black, and eventually she ended up dying at kind of a young age.
These Men in Black guys, like, it's I'm curious how they would operate now with people just having cell phones and people just being able to just stream whenever they want. Like someone just open up fire up a YouTube stream or a Facebook stream and stream some sort of occurrence with this weird government guy, possibly tell them that they can't talk about the Mothman or whatever.
The best advice that I could give, of course, is obviously to Google all the different information. But a lot of these men in black have been observed with like jerky sort of movements. They move unnaturally. They talk unnaturally. And when people get a look at their skin, it looks inhuman, sort of pale. But that was the original Men in Blacks back in the Mothman days. Nowadays, I mean, shit, the government can get away with anything. You'll have a guy walk up to your door and threaten you, or threatening phone calls, or all of the above.
Man, oh man, I gotta take a look at what you sent me. I don't have time to screen it right now, but shit. Any recent occurrences with the Mothman? That's the other thing. Like, he seems to have just disappeared.
They mentioned something about Chicago, and it's not coming to my mind right now, but there was Mothman sighting over Chicago as of a few years ago. Basically, I worry about a lot of these supposed sightings because, like we mentioned before, you never know when someone's just kind of making something up or whatever. But there was I have been to Chernobyl, the power plant that gave us the worst human-made disaster in history, in Ukraine, close to Russia. I've been to Chernobyl, and that was last year. It was quite the experience, but supposedly Mothman showed up to some of the pilots that were flying over the meltdown area of Reactor 4 when it went down. So yes, you're absolutely right. Not only the Silver Bridge disaster in Point Pleasant that killed, I think, close to 50 people. It was close to Christmas and the bridge was packed with traffic. And someone said they saw a Mothman on the bridge. Of course, this is the town where the legend originates from. And just a while after that, the bridge totally took a plunge, and it plunged so many people into the cold water. Close to 50 people died in Point Pleasant. Not to mention Chernobyl. There's been sightings of Mothman, I think, in Chicago, but I can't think of any disaster that followed. So yeah, this sort of winged creature cryptid seems to follow disaster around the world.
That is pretty creepy. Because I wonder if just talking about the Mothman brings some sort of weird omen. I mean, that would be a weird thing.
Oh, we'll see if it happens close to you or I very soon, won't we?
Right? Shit. What about other cryptids? People dismiss Bigfoot. It's like, come on. Where has Bigfoot been?
Man, I've actually got an upcoming book. It'll be a while, but I did dive into it just from all the research I've done and stuff. It's called The Quiet Wild. And it involves Bigfoot and things. I mean, here in the Silver State, where I'm currently located, we're going over toward California border, which is all trees. Lots of big trees is where you'll see Bigfoot. But then there was one close to my home state, the Beehive State, where they videotaped Bigfoot up on a ledge. But he seems to focus around a lot of trees. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're cannibalistic or they bury their dead. I don't know. I mean, how has a skeleton not been found before? And how the fuck is all of the video evidence all blurry, damn it?
Right? That's what I think about cryptids. I wish if someone could show me something that's not blurry or... I hate the ones where they have like the red circle around what you're supposed to see.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, man. And then you edited that photo. I mean,
right. But then it's like, how do you get close to something like that? But then there's so many different types of Bigfoot too. Like soldiers over in Vietnam talked about the guerrilla people. I forget what they're called, kind of guerrilla men that actually took on their battalion and freaked out their battalion clear back in the 70s. And then you've got the Zapruder film, or is that JFK? That's JFK. But there's so many different types of Bigfoot too out there. Some people talk about being accosted by it, rocks thrown out from the forest while they were camping, rocks thrown at them.
Well, don't be having sex on Bigfoot's territory. Damn it.
Right? He's like Jason Voorhees. He's going to cock block you and crash in your skull.
Right? God damn it. You need to invite me next time.
Right? Now, another form of weird, bizarre shit that's incorporated with cryptids and UFOs and ghosts and poltergeists is Skinwalker Ranch. Are you familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, Mr. Deadman?
Not. Wait, where's that at?
This is in Utah. It would be northeastern Utah. So this is supposedly like a major hot spot for all sorts of weird shit. I'd advise you to kind of look into it, or anybody listening, look into Skinwalker Ranch. I'll send you my link when I went there. Now it's a big show, and I realized that when I went to Skinwalker Ranch, which is totally gated off and they have no trespassing signs, the guy did come out of the gate when I went there, and he came up to us and he told us, like, something big is coming and you'll know when you see it. But right now I can't really give out a lot of information.
No,
but dude, yeah, we're talking about a place that has so much witness of cattle and livestock moved into places where they never should be, poltergeist activity, UFOs seen in the sky. One person actually talked about how he saw sort of a wormhole tunnel open up, and then this creature, sort of an alien creature, kind of military crawl through this wormhole, fall out on the other side, and then the wormhole closed. Skinwalker Ranch is intense as shit, Mr. Deadman.
Holy hell, there's a lot of activity. Just go over there and do a live stream. We could find something, right?
Well, unfortunately, it's gated, but the whole damn valley has stories about it. I've talked to several people around the valley that say they've seen things in the sky, a lot of UFO activity. So a lot of the basis and the magnetic attraction seems to focus at Skinwalker Ranch, which is gated off. And now they have a show. Maybe it's on the History Channel. It's something about Skinwalker Ranch if you want to look it up. But beyond that, the whole valley is just... Utah is nuts. Utah is really crazy. That's where you go into Native American cryptids. You've got the Utah, Arizona, New Mexico border, all that. I mean, I'm a desert rat, and I'll tell you right now, the desert has some intensity. Skinwalkers themselves are really crazy. A lot of the Native Americans don't even want to discuss what skinwalkers are or their experience with it.
Yeah, that I'm crazy. Aware of. I'm aware of that. I'm kind of aware of skinwalkers, and I'm aware that the Navajo tribe doesn't want to talk about them too much at all. Consider it to be like taboo. You don't talk about that. It's like,
right.
Talk about it. No, you don't talk about that.
And I guess that goes into something else that we could talk about too. And you actually brought it up earlier. It's like, if you mention it or you talk about it, does that bring it on to you somehow? The Native Americans seem to think so when it comes to skinwalkers. But here we are trying to seek the truth, trying to seek evidence. It's got to be out there. We've got to seek it.
We could get ourselves killed by doing this stuff, maybe. I don't know.
I guess we shouldn't talk about the Men in Black too much, or
I'm curious about them. If they roll up, I'll just fire up a live stream real fast before I die.
Exactly. That's kind of what I've been thinking. Like, how do you actually get the upper advantage of stuff like this? So you have cameras all over,
right? I mean, when you have people who live stream shootings, remember the Christchurch shooting? The guy live streamed that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I caught a load of that as it was happening. I was like, holy fuck. But that stuff happens. Surprised that these weird occult things, these weird, more paranormal cryptid stuff, like where's that activity at? Like, we could be live streaming that. We could be capturing
They
that.
seem to have some sort of a bizarre intelligence. And the people at Skinwalker Ranch actually told me this too. It's like when you're looking for it, it's just like what we talked about kind of earlier. The people, when you're looking for it, it seems to evade you on purpose. And when you least expect it and you're the least prepared, it's right there a lot of times. And the guys at Skinwalker Ranch really had a lot to say about that. It's like, we set up these cameras here where these cattle was mutilated, and we set up this, we set up that, but it evaded us every time. And suddenly it was over here. It wasn't here where we were looking. So that's the other weird thing. The supernatural plane that operates in the same world that we do, just on a different level that a lot of us can't see, it seems to have more of a knowledge and intelligence.
It must. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, I definitely believe that cryptids do exist. Out of all the paranormal stuff, like ghosts, I'm on the fence about. Cryptids, I could see, especially when there have been animals where we thought to have been extinct, but they're not really extinct. They kind of exist in low population. There's so much wilderness even still that they can live in like in a pocket of territory and be fine, kind of sort of like Tasmanian tiger or Tasmanian devil, whatever. They're not gone. They still live. They just, you don't see too many of them. But that's because Australia is vast. There's a lot of wilderness, and good luck exploring all that because in Australia, just about everything wants to kill you there. So good luck exploring that.
Oh my God. And like a part of me wants to visit it, but I'm horrified of alligators, let alone crocodiles. And You actually just nailed it too. The first example I was going to bring up was the Tasmanian tiger. And the second example that I was going to bring up is not only do we have these pockets of wilderness that are unexplored, or underground caves that are unexplored, I go for underwater, the ocean. Not only do you have UFOs for unidentified flying objects, which I did see outside of Tonopah, Nevada with another friend of mine, but you have USOs, the unidentified submerged objects that appear from the water. And there's thousands of witnesses of seeing UFO type of aircrafts appear from underwater. So not only do we have these pockets of forest, we have the whole bloody ocean that makes up most of the planet.
That's true. I mean, hasn't there been historical accounts of strange, unidentified objects coming out from the water, just whoosh, and going?
Yep, you gotta love those USOs, unidentified submerged objects. So you never know what sort of bases are down there that not only maybe aliens have done, but I mean, we've talked about our government before in this podcast and before. They're experimenting with things all the time, all sorts of different things. Why wouldn't they experiment with underwater stuff or out in the boondocks sort of stuff?
Right.
The UFO that me and my friend saw outside of Tonopah, Nevada, apparently there's supposed to be some sort of experimental flight craft base that's out there, and maybe that was a part of it.
Did you catch, I don't know if you watched the Joe Rogan podcast a lot or whatever, but he had some ex-military guy talk to him about UFOs, essentially. He was the commander, the major, whatever that was. He was the one who filmed one of the latest, what do you call it, like on his, doing the routine training stuff, flying around, whatever. They caught this on the video from the jet. They're tracking something, but it was really evasive, really hard to track. This video, a lot of people saying was edited, it was doctored, whatever, but because it looked weird. But what you're seeing was an actual video coming from what you would see in the jet. That's why it looks the way it does. And that object, it does not move like it should. And he was like swearing up and down, like, these things are out there. We're seeing them. And there's been, not too long ago, and the news was like the military is saying, hey, there's things that we see out here that we haven't identified. We don't really know what they are. So
right. There is an interesting channel on YouTube. It's called Bedtime Stories that dabbles into a lot of it. If anybody is interested in looking up some of these more obscure tales like you're talking about, it involves the military or people of real prominence that are reporting these things and seeing these things. And so a lot of them, just like I mentioned, the Vietnam battalions that were facing off against these ape creatures in the forest and shit that were coming at them. Some of them are over in Afghanistan, in the desert and the mountains. And so, yeah, a lot of these military people are seeing not only creatures, but these weird unidentified aircraft. It's like, we're the big boys out here. There ain't no other aircraft besides ours. What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. And it makes you wonder.
So, yeah.
It makes you wonder what it is. I know people dismiss it, but like, no, because immediately they think, oh, what do you think? It's aliens? It's like, we're not saying it's aliens exactly. We don't know what it is, but that is something there, something to it. Maybe it's alien, but maybe it's not. Maybe we don't know, but they've been seen, they've been documented. You can see footage of it. And I'm not talking about the photos that are obviously doctored, but when you have military coming out, when you have the U.S. military saying, we see this happening.
Yep. So I would urge people, anyone listening or listens in the future, like, we have to get over this fear. Everybody's afraid. Why? What is the problem with having an open mind to think that it's a possibility? All of this is a possibility, first of all. But the main problem is the everyday masses, they want to focus on their football. They want to focus on their TV binge. They don't want to talk about the potential of this stuff happening, or even the unconfidential stuff, the stuff that was top secret and now it's out in the open. I mean, it's out there and people are admitting to this weird stuff happening. People need to stop being afraid. Right. It's just like it goes back to what we talked about with horror. It's supposed to prepare you. It's not just to give you a thrill and then let you go home to your babies and your wives and all that. You have to be prepared. Keep an open mind for stuff. You don't have to be afraid of it.
Yeah, you got to be willing to face your fear. What is this thing? Does it make you uncomfortable to talk about it? Okay, well, what is it? We'll only know by exploring. We put our head in the sand. We're not going to know what it is. We'll be ignorant, and one day it may bite us. Bite us in our ass. I don't know.
It could, depending on the circumstance. Some ass biting. Some people get excited by that. Most people get horrified by that, and the rest of it is like, bite me, motherfucker. Look what I do back. Mm-hmm. So we need to get over this fear. We just need to get over it and start talking about open-minded sort of shit. Sorry, Mr. Deadman, what were you about to ask me?
Oh, I was going to say, one question to ask all my guests. We explored the paranormal, and this question's already been kind of brought up. I think you already answered it, but maybe you give another one. Do you have a favorite horror movie, and what is it?
My favorite horror movie is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre of 1974. Mm-hmm. Because it is very possible and original, and once again, it bring awareness. So I originally really looked into this movie because I had grown up on Friday the 13th, Halloween, so I love my Voorhees, I love my Myers. Never totally got into Freddy Krueger, but I love my Voorhees, love my Myers. So I was watching a movie called Summer School where these kids are obsessed with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And so I decided, I need to see this. I need to rent it. Me and my cousin were sitting there watching this movie the first 25 minutes, making fun of it. All the people in their bell bottoms, and it's totally 70s grind, and we just weren't feeling it. We were laughing about it. Suddenly, spoiler alert, I see this guy go into the wrong house, and Leatherface, this huge figure, is raising his sledgehammer and he bashes him over the head. And then the guy starts twitching and his leg starts banging the floor, and then he hits him again. And then he pulls him in and he slams the metal door. Me and my cousin shut our mouths and looked at each other, and we were like, okay, this is about to get nuts.
Right. That's a great movie. It's a good build up to it. I like how in the beginning of the movie you thought it was gonna be nothing. If it's your first time watching, you're like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But when the intensity happens, it happens real fast, and you're not really expecting it. Mm-hmm.
And it helped me with my writing too. I try to make my writing a lot of that way. And actually, when you pay attention to the movie after experiencing all that for the first time, everything leading up to the intensity is actually relevant to it. The stuff that they talk about and the hitchhiker and all that, everything in that movie references what happens later. It's a great movie.
It is. And
what about you, Mr. Deadman? What's your favorite?
My favorite... let's see. Halloween's good. I really enjoyed Halloween, like the original, but there's a nostalgic reason for that. It was like one of the first horror films I watched. But I always talk about that one. A recent one I've seen... Man, I'm going to have to go with... I've been watching a lot of obscure shit lately. I really like Zombie Ass, but it's not a favorite. It's quirky. It's weird. Have you seen Zombie Ass?
Did you say Zombie Ass?
Yeah, Zombie Ass. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've seen Zombievers, but I've never seen Zombie Ass.
Zombievers is funny too. No, Zombie Ass is it's a Japanese horror film, and they take it literally. It's zombified assholes that shoot out a weird tentacle worm thing out of the asshole, and it eats people. It's very bizarre and gross.
Dude, I gotta say, the Japanese do not fuck around with their horror, and their horror is really scary.
They don't fuck around. They also don't fuck around with their gore, which is weird, because I thought they had like a thing against it, like the rating or whatever, the censorship, but no, they don't care. They in this film, there's a lot of course, it's a Japanese horror film with a zombie ass, and you're gonna see tits and ass. There's a scene there where a chick is squatting, about to take a shit, and this zombie Japanese guy comes up and starts slapping her ass. He comes out of the diarrhea water, and he's like biting on her ass and all this stuff. It's so nasty because it looks so like the attention to detail to the diarrhea water was really, really gross. It's not a. I guess
I'm just shocked that they censor their porn. Fuck.
Right. Which the guy who made it, the guy who directed it, probably wouldn't surprise you. Before he made this movie, he actually did some JAV, Japanese adult videos. So
damn,
he had tap into, so he knew how to shoot, what to shoot. I guess you could put it that way.
Well, I mean, shit. We all got to build our skills, huh?
Right. And it ends with I don't want to give the whole ending away, but there's a part where they're farting up into the sky, and they're like doing like this crazy like anime battle. It's so wild.
I'm terrible with toilet humor, Mr. Deadman. Sounds awful. No.
But you know what though? This movie has like a bunch of like 1-star reviews for that reason. A lot of people give it 1 star, and they'll give like it's nothing but toilet humor, and it's like, what were you expecting? It's the title is Zombie Ass, Toilet of the Dead.
God damn, that's epic.
If you watch a movie Zombie Ass, Toilet of the Dead, and you give it a 1-star review for being too far on the shit jokes, like then what were you expecting? It's like giving Texas Chainsaw Massacre a 1-star review because it was too brutal, too much cannibalism.
Well, I mean, a lot of these people don't even use the blinker in their car, so how are they supposed to pay attention to a title, right?
Right. But I got to tell you, that's not really my recent favorite right now. And I was going to hate on this movie. It's the first time I watched it last night. Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. Have you seen it?
I was so angry about the movie. I don't know why. I guess, and I shouldn't be. I should give it another try because all of these really ballsy guys, these guys that are like alpha as fuck. You've got the guy with his broken leg that is totally out to, I believe, get his wife and all that. I guess I expected more from the horrifying native type of creatures. They're not creatures. Those are humans. But then they tore that guy in half and stuff. And then part of me expected more from Kurt Russell to be more badass.
Right.
But
I have mixed feelings about the film, too. I wanted to hate it. The first time I watched it was last night, and I actually watched in two parts. The first time I watched it was I started the night before, and I realized this is a 2-hour movie. I'm like, man, I'm gonna finish this. I'm bored. Like these guys are just walking, and I'm pissed. I'm pissed off with the movie because I'm like, why would you have a character start off with a bum leg? Why would you have the character start off with a broken leg? He's gonna be. It was painful to watch to walk. It was like. Imagine watching Lord of the Rings, but one of the heroes. I don't know their names because I'm not a geek. I'm sorry. No. Imagine if one of them was like walking on a busted leg and was complaining the whole time, and you had like a nagging old man that would just keep on talking about. Wait, they had that in Lord of the Rings, but imagine that because it was a very painful experience.
It was, yes, it was, and it's like he's a burden on the group. He shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. And.
So yeah, I agree.
And besides, when this is happening, I'm like, wait. In this movie, instead of showing us the kidnapping, like the Native Americans kidnapping, I guess the doctor, the girl doctor, the woman, and the other people. Instead of showing us that, you took us to a scene where the guy with the crippled, pretty much, reading some crappy poetry. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? So I hated this. I hated it. And then I fired it up last night. I was at the part with the third act when they find the cave. Oh, that sequence is fine. And I was like, holy fuck! If the movie focused more on this, oh shit!
Nailed it. You nailed it, Mr. Deadman. And a part of that too is kind of interesting in writing. God, as contradictory as this is, because you've got that other member of the party who's just kind of totally brutal, and he seems healthy. He seems aware, like he's going to be the guy that's really going to probably get them through all this shit because he's unemotional and he's hardcore. He's prepared. He knows his weapons.
He's already
and
killed,
suddenly his ass is dead.
Right? Not only is he dead, but when he's like, stick me with the dynamite, I'll kill him. He still doesn't. He still can't.
And he
do
doesn't. It. Oh my god! Yeah.
And
which a part of.
I was supposed to say they're saved by the gimp. They're saved by the gimp. He's the hero of the day, and all of that.
The guy who's the beta with his wife.
Yeah, the beta with his wife, and he was on opium. He was on opium because because there was a part because he was supposed to give it to Kurt Russell, but I think he had another bottle because there was a part when he's walking, he takes a little bottle out and he just, he takes it like, oh, he had another sample on him. Okay.
Right. And then I wonder, like him and his wife, they're just supposed to get back to the place. Like what water are they drinking? Yeah. Like you said, it's painful.
Yeah.
And now a part of that aspect I have used in my book, sort of, an alpha that's just like, dude, I am the guy. Of all of you guys, you're all a bunch of wankers, or we've got our women, whatever. I'm the beta. Suddenly you kill that fucker off, and the rest of them are kind of just at the mercy, And it kind of leads an interesting aspect, but the way they executed it in Bone Tomahawk, the whole time I had anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I like that they did that because it really screwed with your expectations, and that's good.
Yes,
because like you said, the guy, he was the healthiest one, the most brutal. He already killed like 160. I don't know how many Indians. So he was good at it. Heartless about it. He had a reason to. He had a reason to be the way he was. But nope, he's not the hero of the day. Not even our bad boy Kurt Russell. No. Oh shit! It was brutal what they did to him. Oh, they're about to shoot him in the balls. I'm like, oh, this movie's gonna do it, isn't it? Because at the point when they bust the guy's nuts. Oh no, let's back up. When they scalp the guy, put the scalp in the guy's mouth, and then put him upside down, bash his nuts, and then rip him apart. I'm like, the holy goddamn fuck. I was like,
See, but mostly horror nowadays kind of needs that sort of stuff. None of this jump scare bullshit anymore,
right?
Or the protagonist that's whining. And I don't know if you've seen the Strangers movies. You've got the Strangers and then the Strangers Prey at Night. And the whole time, the protagonists that you're supposed to feel bad for are yelling and crying and saying, go away. It's like, no, shut up and keep your position so that they don't know where you are. So
that's what
you don't need that in horror now.
That's what I like about that in Bone Tomahawk. At least those guys weren't whining. When they're in that cave and they knew their odds were against them. They were probably not going to make it. They weren't whining. They weren't bitching about it. They're like, what can we do? What can we do? Maybe we could try to poison the Indians. That didn't work because they came out and they about to shoot Kurt Russell in the nuts. They cut his chest, put the flask in his chest after it was sitting on hot coals. Oh man! I love how brutal it was.
If they would just do that, not with, because I wouldn't consider really Bone Tomahawk a horror movie, I guess, as much as action or Western, sort of. But if they would incorporate that sort of just unpredictable, raw brutality with horror nowadays, instead of jump scares and protagonists that you don't care about. I mean, they gave you people to care about. Kurt Russell was candid. Mm-hmm. He spoke well. He was alpha and had stuff to say. If they did that with horror nowadays, I think you'd get an audience that's much more, I guess, aware, or just a better type of product as far as these horror movies go.
I agree. Wow.
And so that's kind of my mission, to do it a lot in my books. I want to get men reading again, man. Not reading just Harry Potter. I want to get them prepared reading horror and just reading, feed men and their mind. Because women, they're already out the gate. They're totally paying attention. They read.
Right.
And all that stuff. We need to get men paying attention to more than just TV and sports. We got to do that.
Right, and the way to do that is to create material that would appeal to them, which right now it's like most of the stuff coming out kind of appeals more to women. It's more, it's like that. I know most of the readers are women. Like your demographic is going to be women. And it's like, okay, in this show, I try to appeal to horror fans of all like movies. It's typically dudes. For reading, it's typically women. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to incorporate that somehow. I create this mixed bag where at worst someone would be like, oh, Mr. Deadman, you're kind of like a chauvinist. You show cleavage, you talk about ladies and this, that, and the way. I mean, you're clearly a womanizer. It's like, oh, hey. I'm just talking about what I want to talk about. I'm talking about horror. I'm respecting the movies. I'm talking about the stuff I read. I'm talking about the books. I'm talking about authors, but about their material. It's about having a good time and just talking about the subject matter. That's all it is.
Damn right, and you nailed it. Just like you talked about Night of the Demons before, I believe it was a 90s movie, and they've got the old man in there that's being coaxed in because he's surrounded by a bunch of half-naked chicks and all that stuff. You
might be thinking of the new Night of the Demons.
Oh, I am. It's the Tales from the Crypt with Billy Zane. And I think, it's Demon Night. I'm wrong. Night. I have not seen Night of the Demons. It was Demon Night.
Night of the Demons is 1988. And when it came out, some reviews were saying that it was sexist or whatever. I just watched the movie last night. I can't think of anything sexist about the movie other than there's a character who's an asshole, calls his woman a bitch. The whole time. But, there's panty shots, there's nudity. But if you watch the movie in context, even the panty shots, it was the female character that was exploiting the men because her girlfriend was trying to shoplift the store and she was distracting them. So it was like, okay, come on now.
And what platform did you see this from?
Amazon Prime. They have they have a lot of stuff. So yeah, I definitely recommend that movie.
I've got Prime. I'll look into it.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. It is very trippy. It does have a lot of cheese. There's a lot of cheese to it. But I'm trying to bring back the
80s.
I'm trying to bring back the Joe Bob Briggs style of movie reviews. You know, like embrace the cheese. You know, as long as it has bodies, blood, and boobs, I'm happy.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how you go back to the rawness that I was talking about. It's all in the raw. Yeah. You don't need this SJW tamed down jump scare shit. You need that 80s stuff. But it all has its place too, because the other part of my heart is in the original Dark Shadow series and the original Twilight Zone. You don't see sex. You don't really see a lot of nudity, but it has its place if it's the right story. Like my book Stitch Mouth, I mean, that's a combination of a lot of sexual scenes and porno erotica mixed with some really hardcore murders, like back in the 80s. And ever since the start of the 2000s, we seem to have lost that like primal, the real primal human stuff that we love.
That's true. That's true. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this show up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this stream. If you did, press the like button, share, subscribe. If you're listening to an iTunes, leave a good review, please, and leave a comment. That'd be nice. And before we go, is there something in the work, Jay, that you wanna plug?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am fixing to release Stowaway Road. It is about a railroad story and a little bit of a nightmare slasher. Stowaway Road, you can look at my stuff at jebempires.com or just type in to Google J.E. Bradstreet. It should lead you to my books, which will lead you to be able to follow me and my upcoming books. There's a lot more to come. Amazon.com/author/J.E. Bradstreet, or hit me up on Facebook. Just look up Jason Bradstreet, codename J.E. Bradstreet. Thank you, Mr. Deadman.
Hey, no problem. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a good one.